Medieval castles were far more than just royal homes. They were monumental feats of engineering designed for one primary purpose: defense. Every stone, every tower, and every wall was part of a sophisticated system intended to make the structure almost invincible. These fortresses dominated the landscape, projecting power and providing a secure sanctuary for the lord and local population. Let's journey back in time and uncover the brilliant design secrets that made these stone giants so formidable. The very ground a castle was built on was its first and perhaps most important line of defense. Designers would spend months, even years, surveying the land to find the most advantageous spot for construction. From the foundation to the flagpole, nothing was left to chance in the quest for ultimate security and control. The principles they established were so effective that many are still studied by military architects today. Understanding these designs reveals a world of strategy, psychology, and incredible ingenuity hidden in plain sight. So, how exactly did they achieve this? It all starts with choosing the perfect location for the fortress. The golden rule of castle building was location, location, location. The best defense was a landscape that did the work for you. Building on high ground, like a steep hill or mountain, forced any approaching group to make a slow, tiring, and exposed ascent. From this vantage point, defenders had a clear line of sight for miles, eliminating any chance of a surprise approach. Natural water barriers were just as valuable. A castle situated on an island was a defender's dream. Rivers could also be used to create a natural moat on one or more sides of the fortification. This forced any potential adversaries to either attempt a difficult water crossing or be funneled towards a single, heavily guarded bridge. Even dense forests or impassable swamps could be incorporated into the castle's defensive perimeter, creating natural obstacles. By using the terrain, castle builders saved resources and created a fortress that was naturally formidable before a single stone was laid. This strategic placement could make a small garrison seem much larger and more powerful than it actually was. But a great location was just the beginning. The real genius was in the walls that enclosed it. The most visible feature of any castle is its massive curtain walls. These were the primary shield against the outside world. These walls were incredibly thick, often several meters, making them highly resistant to primitive siege equipment and projectiles. They were not solid blocks of stone. The outer faces were made of strong, well-cut ashlar masonry. However, the core was filled with a dense mixture of rubble, smaller stones, and mortar, which was cheaper and absorbed impacts. Some walls were even built with a slight batter, meaning they were wider at the base than at the top. This added structural stability and also caused dropped projectiles to bounce outwards into approaching groups. Walkways, known as ramparts, were built along the top of the walls, allowing defenders to move quickly between different sections. The height of the walls was also a crucial defensive element, making them very difficult to scale with ladders. Over time, wall designs evolved, incorporating projecting towers to provide better angles for defenders to observe and react. While the walls were strong, the most intense action was always focused on the castle's single greatest vulnerability: the gate. The entrance was the castle's weakest link, so designers turned it into a deadly, multi-layered trap known as the gatehouse. The first obstacle was often a drawbridge over a moat. Raising it would completely cut off access to the gate. Next came the portcullis, a heavy grill of wood and iron that could be dropped instantly to block the passage. Many gatehouses had 2 or more portcullises, creating a confined space between them to trap intruders. This passage was often called the killing ground, and for good reason. It was open to the sky or had openings above. These murder holes allowed defenders to drop rocks, hot sand, or boiling water on anyone trapped below. Arrow slits in the side walls of the passage allowed archers to fire into the confined space with little risk to themselves. The main doors themselves were made of thick oak, reinforced with iron bands and drawn shut with massive bars. Navigating this gauntlet was a near impossible task, designed to demoralize and neutralize any direct advance on the entrance. Beyond the gate, another key defensive feature stood guard along the walls: the towers. Towers were the eyes and muscles of the castle walls, serving as watchposts and defensive platforms. Early Norman castles often featured square or rectangular towers. They were simple to build, but had a critical flaw. The sharp 90-degree corners created blind spots at their base that defenders on top could not see. These corners were also structurally weaker and could be more easily undermined by sappers digging tunnels beneath them. To solve this, castle architects developed round towers. Their curved surface eliminated blind spots completely. A round tower provided defenders on top with a panoramic 360-degree field of fire, leaving no place to hide. Their shape was also much stronger against projectiles, which had a tendency to glance off the curved surface rather than hit flush. A common compromise was the D-shaped tower, with a curved face pointing outwards and a flat back against the curtain wall. This design combined the defensive advantages of a round tower with the convenience of a rectangular interior space. From the towers, we look down to the very top of the walls, where another iconic feature played a vital role. The sawtooth pattern on top of a castle wall isn't just for decoration, it's a highly functional defensive system called battlements. This pattern consists of two parts: the solid upright sections, called merlons, and the gaps in between, called crenels. The merlons acted as solid stone shields, providing excellent cover for defenders on the wall walk. An archer could shelter behind a merlon while reloading their bow or crossbow, protected from incoming projectiles. Then, they would step into the crenel, the open gap, to take their shot with a clear field of view. This rhythm of cover and fire made the castle walls a formidable platform for ranged defense. Some merlons even had their own narrow arrow slits built into them for added protection while aiming. Later designs included wooden hoardings or stone machicolations, which were overhangs providing even better protection. These structures allowed defenders to drop things directly onto the base of the wall without exposing themselves at all. This top layer of defense was the castle's crown, but another feature at its base provided a different kind of obstacle. One of the most classic castle defenses is the moat, a wide ditch dug around the outer walls. A water-filled moat was a major obstacle. It stopped heavy siege equipment like towers and rams dead in their tracks. It also made it nearly impossible for adversaries to dig tunnels or mine under the walls, as they would quickly flood. The only way to cross was the drawbridge, which, as we've seen, was a key part of the gatehouse defense. When raised, the drawbridge not only created a gap, but also formed an extra barrier in front of the gate. But not all moats were filled with water. A deep, dry moat could be just as effective an obstacle. The steep sides, or escarpments, were difficult to climb, especially for people in armor or those trying to carry ladders. Sometimes, sharpened wooden stakes were placed at the bottom of a dry moat to create an even more hazardous barrier. Whether wet or dry, the moat created a crucial zone of separation between the castle and the surrounding land. But what if all these outer defenses failed? Castle designers had a plan for that too. Defense in depth. The smartest castle architects never assumed their outer defenses were perfect. They planned for failure with defense in depth. This led to the design of concentric castles, which featured 2 or more complete circuits of defensive walls. If an approaching force managed to breach the outer wall, they wouldn't find themselves in the castle, but in a new, exposed area. This space, known as the outer ward or bailey, became a trap. Intruders were now surrounded by walls on both sides. Defenders on the higher inner wall could rain down projectiles on those trapped in the ward below. The gatehouses of the inner and outer walls were deliberately misaligned, preventing a straight rush from one to the other. This forced any group that broke through the first gate to navigate the dangerous outer ward to find the next entrance. This layered approach exhausted and demoralized adversaries, making them face fresh defenses just when they thought they had succeeded. Even within the inner ward, there were often smaller fortified buildings, creating even more layers of defense. But at the very heart of it all was the final, ultimate defensive structure, the keep. The keep, or donjon, was the castle's last line of defense. It was a self-contained fortress within the fortress. If all other walls fell, the lord and his household could retreat into the keep for a final stand. The entrance to the keep was often on the first floor, not the ground floor, accessible only by a removable wooden staircase. The walls of the keep were the thickest in the entire castle, and it often had its own water well and food stores. Inside, the staircases were a brilliant defensive feature. They were almost always narrow, steep, and spiral. Most spiral staircases wound clockwise. This was designed to impede a right-handed person ascending with a sword. Conversely, it gave a huge advantage to the right-handed defender, who had ample room to swing their weapon downwards. The individual steps were often built to be uneven and irregular, tripping up those unfamiliar with them in the dark. The top of the keep was its own battlement, providing the highest and most commanding view of the entire area. The keep was the ultimate symbol of the castle's resilience, a final bastion of safety and defiance. From the strategic choice of location to the clever design of a spiral staircase, every castle detail was a calculated move. The combination of natural geography and man-made fortifications created a layered defense that was incredibly difficult to overcome. These structures were not just static defenses, they were interactive, designed to channel and trap any approaching force. The psychological impact was immense. A well-defended castle could persuade potential adversaries not to even try. The evolution from simple wooden forts to complex concentric stone castles shows centuries of learning and adaptation. The introduction of powerful cannons in the 15th century eventually spelled the end of the castle's military dominance. Though their time as supreme fortifications has passed, their ruins still captivate our imagination today. They stand as enduring monuments to a time of conflict, but also of incredible human ingenuity and strategic thinking. Every crumbling wall and empty tower tells a story of survival, power, and the timeless art of defense. So the next time you see a castle, look closer. You're not just seeing a building, but a masterpiece of design.